Welcome back to City Skylines. This is our Glasgow build. Last time I made a video about this, it was about half done, and now we have finished our street layout of Glasgow, Montana, and we're pretty true to the real life town. We've got all the streets out there, we've got the airport up there, we've got all of the street names down to the correct naming. So there is indeed a railway line running through. I've taken some artistic liberty to add a few extra railway stations in the game so that it's functional and people are able to ride the train from one end of town to the other. Of course, if this was real life Glasgow, there is no need for that. There's just one train station in real life Glasgow because it is a very, very small town. So now, I guess having done this, it really is just sort of a matter of, where do we want to go next with this build? And I could say that this build is complete if I wanted to. I could. It's functional. Everything seems to work pretty well. But then I don't feel like I'm ready to say that either. I feel like I want to do something more with it. And it really seems kind of like, when you look at this, it feels like a big city. But really, this entire build is modeled after a very, very small town of just about 3,000 people. So the question is, how do we, using just the vanilla assets of City Skylines, how do we take this city and make it feel like the small town that it's actually modeled after? That's really where I'm going with this. And I think what we're going to do is we're going to start to maybe actually depopulate the town a little bit, which is kind of crazy to say, but I had to grow the population so that I would be able to unlock the tiles I need to build the town. And I guess if I could unlock a couple more tiles, I would go up here and over, and then that would give us a chance to kind of have a few more of the outlying areas that are on the edge of town. Not really necessary at all, but I've also just thought it might be kind of cool to go downwards though and see like how much can we take away population and then scale back spending and eliminate skyscrapers and eliminate traffic and things just by diminishing the size of the city. And that itself could be sort of a cool competition. And then I guess the final phase of this would be to switch on the mods and then start doing some beauty building and just take it away from the live simulation entirely and just focus on putting out all the little things like the Albertsons and the KFC and, well, whatever else might be there. I don't think there is a KFC in Glasgow. There's a Taco Bell, I believe, there. But certainly, despite the fact that our street layout is identical to Glasgow, the game itself does not do Glasgow justice because Glasgow does not have any enormous skyscrapery sort of buildings anywhere in it, so it's a little ridiculous to have those. And I think that we can actually do a certain style, so like European suburbia. So if we did that, let's just take a look and see what does European suburbia look like. Speed up the game. So these houses are disappearing and then the new style will appear, because that's part of the problem of Skylines. Like the The themes are just not very good sometimes. Like the houses don't have to be, you know, perfectly styled necessarily, but they have to look like regular, you know, regular suburban houses should look like that. Like these are decent houses. A lot more normal looking. Even if I do introduce some modded things to this build, I don't want to necessarily go too deep into it. If I can find a solution, like just changing a theme or something, that'll make it seem a bit more realistic, then I want to do that. Those are pretty normal looking houses. I think we can live with those. Those don't look crazy. They look pretty normal. Certainly better than this. Like these 2-story condo kind of looking houses. Like that's not a small town look at all. Like you might have a few of those like downtown or something, but you're not gonna have like this wall-to-wall house that are all multi-story, square, boxy kind of looking units. It's not the right aesthetic for a little town. So, as a matter of fact, we'll expand this zone that's set to be this suburbia theme, and we'll cover this entire area with it and see how that changes the overall look and feel. Yeah, that's definitely a lot better. And these houses are starting to come back. And I think it's kind of crazy. They don't have any military bases, and they don't really have much churches in the vanilla build of City Skylines. Like even SimCity Classic had churches and stuff. Like they had houses of worship and things and military base, but that just never made it into City Skylines. I think maybe they were trying to be like neutral and not say anything or put anything in there that somebody might be offended by, which is kind of stupid if that's true, because cities have churches and military bases and things, but that's alright. I mean, modding communities more than made up for anything missing in City Skylines, so it's not like it really matters. But then I also do think it's kind of interesting when you figure like just what's in the game if you don't have any DLC, like not official DLC, if you just use the stuff the devs have released for the game, then what's really missing? And they've added so much, like financial districts and things. Like I would think you'd have more diversity in houses of worship and things before you'd maybe get around to trying to replicate Wall Street or something. I also feel like the parks in vanilla City Skylines are really lackluster. Like I used to feel like the parks in SimCity 3000 and SimCity 4 were really amazing. Even that terrible SimCity 5, which really failed in many ways, had certain aspects of it that were quite beautiful. In fact, I might even play a SimCity build sometime. It's not a really great game because there's no replayability to it really, because it's all like the only things you could do is small towns, I guess. But it really was a beautiful game. Like it's a shame that it didn't keep on getting dev support and it didn't continue to grow. Because if it was, if SimCity 5 continued to get support and the devs listened to the community and they tried to compete with what Cities Skylines ultimately did, that game could have given Cities Skylines a huge run for the money. And that really would have been something to behold. But the days of Maxis being top of the food chain and city building is that's long ago past. So there we have it. Like this neighborhood is turning into that suburban style of little houses and things, and looks really nice compared to what it looked like before. I know that there was a mod. I know there is a mod that added a trailer park theme, and I want to find that, because certainly in little towns in Montana, you are never going to find a little town in Montana that doesn't have a trailer park kind of an area. So it's something that we'll look at. Anyway, we're definitely not done with this build. Like I didn't show the entire process of finishing up the street grids and all of that, just because I was kind of too busy playing the game to make a video about the game. But now I'm quite pleased with how the city grid looks, and I'm pleased with the fact that we're turning a profit and everything's looking pretty good. But I do want to start working on trying to figure out how to make it feel a little more realistic, a little bit more like what the real town actually is all about. This dirty industry going on over here. We did build a little amusement park area here, and there is kind of the old fairgrounds, what should be a fairgrounds in Glasgow, right about in that area. In reality, it's more like just a dirty area than it is anything real. But the challenge is going to be to downsize the city here, I guess, without making it unviable. But I do like these little houses. I like them much better than this other way it is over here. So I think we're gonna continue to expand. Expand that zone. And now we're going to see what it looks like when we go into the normal city blocks in town. Because when I do get around to like fine-tuning the city and detailing everything a little bit more, like I don't want to necessarily be like planting every single house. I want the game to kind of run itself and be, pretty true to the simulation. And then just make those little minor modifications that create a sense of realism on top of it. Like I don't want to necessarily make this build, something that's totally financially unviable and running on tons and tons and tons of mods. Before I do any mods for this game, this particular build, I do want to upgrade a vanilla version to the workshop so that anyone who wants to play with it can. So that's where the goal will continue to be, to make this build as realistic as possible, but not by modding it. We do have plenty of money though, so if we run a little bit negative for a bit, that's not going to kill us. I think what we may do is unlock all progression milestones and unlock all areas using the mod, just because if I want to decrease the size of the town, then that means that there's not going to be any more unlocking things by increasing the population size. So that's going to probably be something I'll look at. So I want the budget to balance, but I don't want to have to worry necessarily about making the town bigger so I can unlock some particular thing that I want to unlock. It really is nice. Nice to see that space open up and it looks a little more like a real residential neighborhood coming in. I like it that all of the citizens are individually simulated and they're going about their business in town. It's amazing. But then I've also thought, like if you think of like the way The Sims was, and I know there was a early plan once by Maxis to make something called Simsville, which was like a mixture between The Sims and SimCity. I wish there was a little bit more of a granular way to interact with your community in a game like this, so it's not so macro. It's a little bit more like you get to know who's Bob and how's Bob's life going and that kind of thing. I guess if a city like this could be more like a colony management game, a little bit more, and then Anno 1800 has a different approach. It prioritizes supply chain over traffic management, but it's still like there's no individual citizens that are being really simulated. It's just like a numbers game there still. And so to get that granular feel, you wind up having to play a colony builder. But then I don't know that there's really any colony builders that give you that like cute little American town kind of a feel. Maybe there's like life sims, like I've been playing Coral Island, and like that's sort of cool because it's like you're living on a little island in a little tiny town sort of a thing. But that's not you building a little town, like wouldn't it be cool if it was like just the maximum size of the town would be a few hundred, maybe tops a few thousand people. Like an enormous build would be a few thousand individual people, and mostly it would be about their personal relationships, and their jobs would be real, and you'd really just have that opportunity to see. I don't know, maybe you could do that with City Skylines to a point. Maybe it's just that there's such a temptation to always keep on expanding that you never really never really slow down and stop. Maybe that's partly just I haven't played the game in that way, and it's so easy to get away from it and just start, building madly and wildly, that you don't ever really get the benefit of a more slow, quiet play style. Look at those city blocks building out. Still a lot of empty plots that haven't come in though. I wonder if I expand out to here and just that's going to totally demolish those high rises. Like, we don't need high rises there. They'll all go away. And then if they go away, that'll decrease our population in this area. And it will increase demand in the other area. But it's not making those go away. So I guess so when I set it to European suburbia, that only affects light density zones, I believe. So we're gonna downgrade the zone density here, and we're gonna eliminate those high rises that way. So that right there really hit our budget hard. Now we're running a negative 3,000. Like, see, right now, the game is saying we need more industrial and we need more commercial. But really, if we look at it in reverse, what we need is less residential, and then that will decrease the demand for the commerce and the industry. And then probably, like, what I might wind up doing eventually is to replace some of these big buildings with more smaller ones, like a little neighborhood clinic instead of the big hospital. So now our budget has recovered. We're back in the positive. 41,000 residents. And our little neighborhood here is developing out. So if you look at a city block, like I'm over here looking at my other screen to say, like, how many houses are there in a city block? I'd say something like I would say we have a lot more houses, potentially, in the middle of town. Like, the suburban houses are pretty big. And in the middle of town, you have a lot more, like, little sort of squatty houses. But then you wouldn't have these boxy ones, though, and that's really what has to go. You can see, I think this is looking a lot more like what I would expect of a small town neighborhood. They are admittedly a little bit larger and more spread out, but that's not a terrible thing. That's kind of realistic. So I would take that over the traditional default style. Oh yeah, I think that's going to be kind of what we do, and I do think I'll wonder where I would go to find that mod for trailer parks. That should be a default style in the game, really. It ought to. I find that once you go down the rabbit hole of mods, like it never ends. Like it's almost better not to, because you never come out of the rabbit hole. Like once you go in, it's just sort of, then there's another mod and you're like, I'll download that mod, I'll subscribe to just another couple more, and the next thing you know, you've so heavily modded your game it's unrecognizable. Like don't even think about putting it on the workshop. Like nobody would be able to play the game after you get done modding the heck out of it. And that was part of the fun of this, I think, really, was to create a vanilla build. So I have a second account for Steam, which is assigned to a different email address, and then the entire purpose of that second account is so that when I go to play Cities Skylines on that account, which is sharing with my main account, then I can load up Cities Skylines and play vanilla, and then if I want to play my modded builds, I can go to my main account and sign in, and then all of my Steam Workshop subscriptions for modded games are still there on my main account, but my second account doesn't have any of that, so I can play the game the way it was meant to be played. So we just went ahead and upgraded a whole bunch of other areas here, so that entire area, that whole zone there, is now assigned to be this suburban theme. Looks like we have some buildings that lost power just because a bunch of things dezoned and went away. Looking at our money, negative 4,000. Be interesting to see how quickly the game recovers from that loss of population. One thing I have learned is you don't want to make a huge amount of changes extremely suddenly. You want to make your changes a little at a time, and the biggest reason for that is because if everyone moves in all at the same time, then they wind up being about the same age, and then everybody starts to die at the same time. You have the death wave going through the city, which is sort of terrible. Kind of morbid, I guess. Might be nice to replace some trees with some different sorts of trees. Like if we... It's got a bit dark, but we go to... a little bit more diversity in tree types will not do us any harm at all. Now we're running a negative $8,000 a month. These guys have no power. They'll get their power once the residential areas rebuild. And that'll solve a lot of our traffic problems too, just by having less people living here. And then we're going to want to sort of transition away from having normal industrial areas to just having farm industry. It's amazing what a difference that makes. Like, it's the main part of town, and then over here we have the residential part we've been working on in this video. Now we're back into the positive again. It's looking a lot more like what you might expect of a neighborhood in Glasgow. It's much better. Much better indeed. One thing that we are going to allow to be unrealistic is the trees, because in Glasgow you really don't have a whole lot of trees, and we do have a lot of trees here. And that's just artistic license, because I like trees. But if you went to real life Glasgow, you'd see trees in town. But once you get out of town, it's going to be more prairies than anything else. In the case of these city skylines videos about Glasgow, it'll be periodic. I'm just going to make them once in a while and sort of showcase what I've been doing. I'm not going to make a huge deal out of like showing every single thing that I do in the game. Okay. I don't need any more waste processing facilities, but I do have a few spots where garbage is building up, so kind of looking at that, thinking what should I be doing about that? Maybe we'll build a couple recycling centers. Because I would rather have recycling centers than like incinerators or other polluting forms of garbage processing. So the incineration plant will process 2,800 per week. It can process up to 48,000 per week. Recycling center, 24,000. So really, it's a little deceptive, because you think recycling center and you think, well, some garbage can't go there. But the truth is, in this game, all garbage can go to the recycling center. And 2 recycling centers essentially equal 1 incineration plant. So we build 4 recycling centers there. And then we're going to delete 2 incineration plants. And let's see, where are the garbage incineration plants? We have one right there. Kind of in the middle of town. Be nice to eliminate that one. And then we can probably eliminate this waste transfer facility too. It's not empty though, so we can't do that right now. And we have a fire going on over here, so I guess I should build a fire station. Do a fire station right there. Take care of kind of that part of town. Our neighborhood's filling in rather nicely. Not a lot of different variety in the sorts of houses here, but that's okay. I'm okay with it not being a lot of variety in house styles, as long as they're kind of the right style of houses. That's really my hang up. I think we're gonna add a little service road over here. Then we're gonna move the sports arena over there, because it really needs to be basically part of the high school, because there is a well, it's a track, not an arena, but it's close enough in real life. Might not be perfect, but this build is going to be the most realistic model of Glasgow probably ever created, because as far as I know, no one's ever made a model of Glasgow, Montana before. So cheers to all the people who might see this, if anyone watching the video happens to be from Glasgow. It's kind of nice seeing how the sun sets and shines on the wet roads. Sometimes the graphics really are quite beautiful in this game. So I'm going to continue to work on this, continue to sort of downsize my neighborhoods and see what I can do to make this build, which now is kind of looking like a big city, make it feel more like a small town. That's going to be our challenge. So till next time, thank you for watching.